Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest today is Nataly Kelly, Chief Marketing Officer at Zappi, where she's helping some of the world's biggest brands rethink how they understand consumers and make faster, smarter, data-driven decisions. Now, Nataly is one of those rare marketing leaders who blends operator muscle with true global perspective. Before Zappi, she spent nearly a decade at HubSpot, where she played a key role in the company's international growth, leading marketing, localization, and expansion into new markets. She's also the co-author with Katherine Melchior Ray, another guest on the pod, Brand Global, Adapt Local, How to Build Brand Value Across Cultures, a must-read for anyone trying to build a brand that actually travels across borders and cultures. And thank you for holding up the book. Nataly's also written many other books, which we're going to get into. What makes her story even more compelling, are you ready for this? She started her career as a Spanish interpreter and built her way to the CMO seat, giving her a uniquely powerful lens on communication, culture, and connection. And on a more personal note, I can't make this up, guys. Something I love. Nataly and I share a deep appreciation for Motown. That timeless ability to connect, transcend, and resonate across generations and cultures. That's just not magic. It's branding at its absolute best. Nataly brings strategic clarity, global insight, and real operating experience to the table. And that's exactly why this is going to make such a great conversation. Nataly Kelly, welcome.
Steve Olensky, thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
We have had some amazing off-the-air conversations. We got to meet in person at the Super Bowl. All I can say is everybody buckle up.
Gonna be a fun ride.
All right. Like, I got to start with the two letters, blah, 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 AI, we know, right? But I'm going to change the lens here during our conversation and kind of make the overarching theme relationships, something I am very important in my life and built my career on, as have you. So we're living in this AI everywhere moment. Everybody's talking about efficiency, scale, automation, blah, blah, blah. Where do relationships still completely outpace technology?
Yes. I'm glad you started there, Steve, because I think everybody is getting a little tired of AI hype and also kind of AI falling short of expectations in many cases because everybody, the hype cycle, we were at the peak and then kind of the trough of disillusionment. And it's, now everybody's like, okay, now what do we do? Well, one of the things that AI really can't do is replace relationships between people. And as a lot of content is getting, out there and it's AI generated and people, AI slop is pervasive, everybody's thinking, who do I trust, in terms of brands, in terms of individuals? Did this person really write this? Or was it written by Claude or ChatGPT? So I think relationships are really what's going to save us from AI slop and is actually what AI cannot do is build relationships with humans. And so those relationships, in my opinion, are going to be even more valuable as AI adoption continues. So I'm glad you started there. I think it's a good place to start in general and in life, building relationships with people, but I think especially now.
Exactly. And I just thought of something for those you're watching this on YouTube. This is the first video version of the CMO Whisperer. And I'm looking at myself and I realized I'm missing something. Are you ready?
Ooh, love it.
There it is. First swag right off the presses.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'll get one and I'll wear it for the next time I talk to you.
1,000,000%. Absolutely. We'll get you a whole gift bag. Okay. Relationships. I cannot wait. This is so great. What's something about building real relationships that people think they understand, but actually get wrong?
I think the thing that people get wrong is not nurturing those relationships and staying in touch with people. I'm an introvert, Steve. So I am not a natural networker. I've had to work hard at it my whole life. And I've read a lot of books about networking, which of course is an introvert way to solve the problem. Because rather than get out there and learn by doing, we're like, can I sit back and go into my head? But one of big takeaways that I had from multiple books that I read on this topic was it's not just having the relationship, it's deepening it. And that's actually something that introverts are very good at, is once you have a relationship, thinking, how do I uniquely add value and help this person so I can bring them closer to me? And how do I make
Mm.
sure that I look for the opportunities to engage with them, that I can stay connected to them, that I can ping them frequently and stay tight with them? Because it's not, we all have lots of connections. How well do we work our networks? How deeply do we go in those networks? And often, we only do that when we need something, like, oh, lost my job.
Mhm.
Now I need to look who's in my network. What if you had all along been adding a little value here, a little value there? Somebody says, oh, I need help now, and lean in to help them when they need help. Then what goes around comes around, and you're going to be able to tap in to a network that's ready to help you and is ready and willing to help you. I think that's the number one thing that people get wrong. It's not, going to an event to meet as many people as possible. It's about meeting those few people that you have a natural inclination toward and something that you can bond over, like us and our love of Motown. It's how do you find those people and find something you actually have a legitimate reason to build a relationship around? That's what unlocks real value. That's my opinion, anyway.
I'm so glad you went there, because I preach to people all the time that relationships are relationships are relationships. And most time, I think when people hear that word, they immediately think personal, your relationship with your partner, your spouse, your children, whatever. But I just feel like most people default to that personal, romantic
Mhm.
when you hear that word, right? And then when you take that a step further, you hear, well, what's one of the most foundational things of a successful relationship? It's communication. So why would you not apply that same thinking to every relationship?
Yeah. And it's the quality and the quantity and the frequency. And as marketers, we think about this all the time. It's the format. It's the surround sound. What is going on when that happens? You might have a really horrible experience with someone if you're stuck in a crowded room that's too hot in the middle of I'm speaking from experience here. Hungry, tired, jet lagged. You might not have the best moment to connect with them at that exact moment. And you might not be at your best, but it's the quality of those communications. It's the quantity of them. How frequent
Mhm.
are they? In what context? In what setting? Those are, things we think about as marketers each and every day, but we rarely apply them to our own networking and relationship building.
I'm a big believer too in like, I'm so glad you said this too, is just pop your head in on somebody that you have a quote unquote professional relationship. You're not asking
Hmm.
for how you doing, how
Hmm.
are things going, and I liken it to one of the biggest pet peeves I've ever had with brands is like, I forget how I phrased it, but every time you communicate with a consumer, it doesn't mean you have to sell them something.
Yes.
It's the same principle when you're working. Like, if I reach out to somebody, and it could be you or vice versa, hey Steve, how's it go? It's going great, thanks. Okay, you're not asking me for something. I'm not asking you for. I'm not selling you something. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And in fact, a person I reached out to just recently, I was thinking, I don't really have a reason to get in touch with them, but I really like the way they think. I want to go sit with them and talk about stuff. I don't know what. I just really like them. And I really
Mhm.
want to hear what's new. And I think that's a valid reason to check in on somebody and get together with them. And I think we need to do that more, because how do opportunities come up and how do these ideas evolve? Usually from those unplanned
Mhm.
interactions where you weren't
Yep.
planning anything. It's like
Yep.
not everything has to be planned and strategic. You have to have a little bit of magic. You have to open yourself up to have those. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to meet that colleague for coffee. And I think there's a lot of importance in having those touch points that is misunderstood. And it's the same as, like, how in large businesses you need an operating cadence, you need a weekly one-on-one or a monthly touch point or whatever it is. Similar with all relationships. It's like, how often are we checking in? Can I get that person on a cadence where I meet them for coffee every 2 months or something? It's like the people who matter and who you naturally are inclined toward. I think it's good to have that in your life.
I think it's even more imperative, if that's the word, important when you're in the C-suite.
Yes, agreed. And in the age of AI. because AI
Yep.
can't do that for us. And I think that is a risk with AI, like all of us, myself included. Instead of asking a human for advice now, I go in, I ask my Claude confessional, ask ChatGPT, and I think it's great. I love technology and I love the ability and the capabilities that are unlocked because of it. But I want to make sure we don't lose the human element that is actually what differentiates us from machines. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's really important as technology evolves.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. All the relationships, is there one or two maybe, that truly changed, your trajectory, how you look at things?
Oh, there's a couple. I mean, how I would say there's a couple that really shaped my career.
Okay.
There's a few, in fact. So there was a woman that I met when I was an interpreter. You mentioned I was a Spanish interpreter at AT&T. They used to fly all of us remote workers out to California, to Monterey, to their headquarters for this business unit that was part of AT&T called Language Line. That was 1996. So I've been a remote worker since 1996, Steve. Back then they called it telecommuting because we did it
That's
over
right.
the phone. This is showing my age, but I think that was a really transformative experience for me because I was part of a big company, AT&T, but I was part of a business unit that behaved kind of like a startup. And there was a woman there by the name of Winnie Hay, this Taiwanese American woman. And I thought, oh, she must be an interpreter. I wonder what language she speaks. She walked by. I said, oh, are you an interpreter? And she's like, no, but I work here. And I was like, oh, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I work in the office. And I thought, oh, maybe she's like a receptionist or something. It turns out she was actually a global vice president at AT&T. And I got to meet her. I learned so much from her. And throughout my career, she's gone on to do other things. Long story short, I met up with her again recently after all these years. Same person as I met in 1996 in my very first job, but she's retiring now. And she's that, a little bit older than me. And I feel like, wow, I learned so much from her, seeing a strong woman with a foreign accent in a business like that at a Fortune 50 company in my earliest days, just out of college. That really shaped my idea of what a leader can be. I was like, she can do that. I can do that. Like, it made me feel like, oh, there's someone who's doing this with more difficulties and challenges to overcome than I had. English is her second language, and here I speak English as a native language. If she can accomplish this, maybe I can do something great with my life too. So
Yeah.
she's a real inspiration to me, and just staying in touch with her over the years, pinging, staying in touch, even online. A great example of relationship that was formative for me and inspiring. A mentor from afar all these years.
It's a great story. Yeah, it's a great story from both sides because you could have just assumed she was just quote unquote, whatever, right? An interpreter. Not that you wouldn't have struck up a relationship with her in the first place, but some people would have been thought like, she doesn't look like someone I should know, if that makes sense. And then from her lens, she could have had the same reaction to you, meaning I'm a global vice president. I don't have to talk to this little peon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she's just so kind. And all these years, she went on to become, very involved with Monterey Institute in the localization master's program and all that. And yeah, just a wonderful person who gave back over the course of her career, shaped many, many lives. So I feel very fortunate to be connected to her. So
it's a really great human interest, a personal story that clearly affected you. I can just hear it in your voice, how you treat others now.
I try to always look at people with, you never know, like an open mind of like, I never know who could surprise me, who could be the next entrepreneur, who could have the best idea in the room. You can't ever judge a book by its cover, but you also can't judge people by their titles or their backgrounds or any of that. And I carry that with me everywhere.
Okay. I'm sure there's some people in the audience going or listening going, wait a minute, hold on. Spanish interpreter to CMO. Okay. If I had a nickel for every time, I'd have one nickel. And I don't think I'm going to get another one. And you know how many CMOs I've spoken to in my career and will speak to. So for those listening who are thinking what I'm thinking, how did you do this?
Well, I think lots of people have unusual, unconventional paths to the CMO role. Mine is definitely an unconventional one. I was an interpreter for Spanish at AT&T. I started to write before I was an interpreter, I should say. when I was in college, I was a blogger. I was one of the first bloggers, when the internet came out. I was like, oh, I can connect to people. I can connect to more people. I can reach an audience. I was also always a writer. And I thought, oh, I can reach lots of people. I used to write for my local newspaper in Illinois where I grew up. I would write for any publication. When I got to AT&T, I realized, oh, there's hundreds of Spanish interpreters. It's probably more readers than I had in my small town newspaper. Maybe I should do a newsletter for them. So I did a newsletter. I wrote a blog. I began doing an email newsletter back in the day. I grew that to, pretty big subscriber list, 30,000 at one point, interpreters that read that newsletter. And I learned, I built websites. I produced content online. I was a content marketer before that really was called that. And I was doing marketing. I just didn't realize that's what marketing was. And then when I left my interpreting job, I became a trainer at AT&T, trained other interpreters, moved on, started my own business, got into market research, which was a fascinating area for me. Then I moved to another telephone interpreting company where I did a lot of marketing. I was basically launching new products and language services for them. And I had to build a lot of marketing materials to train my salespeople. And I ran sidecar with them on the deals. And I did a lot of sales enablement, writing scripts for them, writing coaching, helping them build their slide decks, did all that for a while. Then I moved to a market research company. I was an analyst at first, like a little Forrester shoot off kind of, from Forrester, ex-Forrester alumni. And I did a lot of consulting, a lot of marketing consulting, helping companies figure out their unique differentiation in the market, stuff like that. From there, I moved into tech. One of the categories I was covering was translation software. And so I went and worked at a translation software company, and I was building a channel for them, a partner channel, and I was doing SEO and I was doing all kinds of interesting stuff. And then the chief revenue officer asked me to move into the marketing role. He's like, you know the industry, you know the market, and you're a great writer and you understand this and you naturally produce a lot of content. Let's move you into VP of marketing role. And that was a venture-backed Series B, then Series C startup. And that was where I really cut my teeth in marketing. And I had an amazing CMO mentor, somebody who was an executive at Eloqua. And they taught me a lot, and they suggested I follow HubSpot. So I followed HubSpot, who happened to be a customer of mine at the time. And I reached out and networked with them, and they ended up hiring me. That wasn't my plan. I was just trying to learn from the best, and they wooed me with their content. And I love the content marketing approach that they had, inbound marketing. Ended up moving there as a VP of marketing. I was overseeing Latin America marketing, back to my Spanish roots. Then they asked me to build localization, and I did. And then they asked me to run international expansion. So I started launching offices in other countries for them and building our hubs in other parts of the world. And then I eventually made my way to Zappi from there. So yeah, it's been a roundabout journey, Steve, but it all kind of one thing led to the next. And that's how I got to where I am.
Thank you for sharing that. That's an amazing journey. Like you said, we all have our own unique journey, but I'm fairly confident to say you will be the first and only Spanish interpreter to a CMO.
Who knows?
But you never seen that.
Okay. Know.
As I mentioned in the bio, you've written, I think I mentioned what I'm going to say now. You've written 4 books. Mm-hmm. The most recent is called Brand Global, Adapt Local.
Yes.
Now, I want to get into the book a little bit, but first, for those not familiar, what's the book about?
So this is the most recent book. It's with Katherine Melchior Ray. It's about how you build a brand for the world. So not only a brand that can be locally successful, but globally successful as well. We have tons of cool examples from all these different brands, from my experience, from Katherine's. Katherine, who is a former guest of yours, as you know, has worked at companies like Shiseido, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Hannah Anderson, Hyatt. She's worked for all these really great consumer brands. I come more from the B2B space. So I contributed a lot on digital marketing and B2B in this book. Majority of it was written by Katherine, but I had written other books before, and she thought it'd be good to team up with me. So she invited me to join her in this collaboration. And I'm pretty proud of what we've put together. It's actually, we just learned recently that it's going to come out in French soon. So in a few months, the French edition will be published in the France market. Ironically, we launched it in France at Cannes Lions, but that was the US edition, the English edition. So now it's coming out in French, which is a dream come true given the topic of the book,
I love that.
Yeah.
How would you say your relationships, in a way, help shape the writing of the book?
Oh my gosh. It's so I can, I mean, if you just look at the acknowledgments, you'll see the amount of people. It's like an Oscar speech, you know. Not only the people that we thanked for supporting us in the book journey itself, but the stories that we got, you know, like the endorsements that we got. Like we've got the former chairman of LVMH Japan, former chief marketing officer of Nike, David Acker of Acker on Branding on the back cover. You don't get those endorsements unless you have relationships. And so all of us really need to make sure we nurture those. And like, I always feel honored when anybody is willing to endorse my book because they're endorsing me in a sense. You know, they're saying
Mhm,
she knows her stuff. And so by them coming forward and endorsing us, like that's the best sign of a relationship that you can have, really.
mhm. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, to get
Mhm.
it's like that seal of approval, that validation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
So,
sharing their stories, you know, sharing
yeah.
their stories. You know, Andrea Perez, who wrote the foreword of the book, you know, Catherine met her at Nike. She just now joined Free People. Like these are people who are doing great work, and like just to stay connected to them is such an honor and a privilege. And I got to meet Andrea when we launched the book in New York. So really, it's just so great to see. The other thing you mentioned is like, how do your relationships help you with this? Like when you need to launch a book, you need people to help you. You need to get the word out. And even just the launch party, I invited everybody I could think of in New York who might be willing to come out and support us. You know, and Catherine has a big network in New York too. So, you know, even just a little something small like a launch party is really when you're asking your network to come out and help you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into your personal, the Natalie Kelly. When people walk away from or have a relationship with you, what do you hope they consistently feel or say about you and a relationship with you?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Steve. I just hope that I added some value, you know, that they got something that will help them. I've taken all these different personality assessments. I'm sure you have too. There's the DISC profile, there's Myers Briggs, there's all these different ones. I took one recently that's called a Hogan assessment, and it ranks you for leadership qualities on a bunch of different dimensions. And what I learned in that Hogan assessment was that my altruism score was like in the 99th percentile. I never knew that before until I took that test, but it resonated with me a lot because to answer your question, what I hope they say about me is that I helped them in some way, that I helped. That's the one thing that I care about is like life is short, you know, we have only so many minutes on this earth. Did I add value in that interaction? Did I help them in some way? Did I contribute in a meaningful way? I hope. Can't do it in every single conversation, but I'll do my best. That's what I hope people remember is like, well, she genuinely wanted to help me. Because I do. I want to help everybody I engage with.
I can see why we get along so well because I'm cut from the exact same cloth as people know. So it does not
That's
describe
awesome.
me. So that's your relationship superpower, right? But the question then is, where did that come from? Was it your parents, your upbringing? Where do you think that comes from?
Good question, Steve. I did get that modeling a lot from my parents when I was growing up. Seemed like we always had some extra person like living at our house, whether it was like a cousin or some friend whose parents were divorcing or whatever. And always at Thanksgiving, when my sister would come home from college, because she was 8 years older than me, she'd bring some foreign exchange student with her who didn't have a family to go to Thanksgiving, you know, and they were there away from home. I think maybe it's Midwestern nice, you know, because I'm from the Midwest. Maybe it's my family upbringing, their values, and some of it's probably just personality because not every person in the Midwest is nice, just to clarify. I think we can think of some who aren't. But yeah, I don't know. That's how I think about the world. It's my worldview. It's probably shaped by my upbringing and my cultural values growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So books. Now you've told us about the most recent one. Tell us about the previous three, and feel free to hold them up one by one so we can all see them.
Okay, so I prepared my stack here. Have you heard about the shelfie? It's like a picture of a bookshelf, you know, like when you take your selfie with your bookshelf. So these are all my books. We talked about the most recent one, Brand Global, Adapt Local. I'll fly through some of these. So this is the first book I actually published with Language Line. It's actually Spanish glossaries. It's a huge compendium of glossaries. And that was my first book that I had my name on that I was very excited about. When I left there, I wrote this book called Found in Translation with Joost Secha, who has a very, very hard to pronounce name. He's a German translator. And we wrote this cool collection of stories about translators and interpreters and the role they play in society and how they're actually holding the fabric of society together. It is such a fun book. It's quite a bit older now, but we got endorsements from Microsoft, from National Geographic, from Facebook back then, and Marlee Matlin, an award-winning actress. So that was that book. It actually got translated into Norwegian and Greek and Russian. I don't have a copy of the Russian version. When I was at HubSpot, I actually published a book there with them. You might have heard of inbound marketing, but what you might not know is that it's also available in German. And that was my doing while I was there, because we wanted to make sure when we entered the German market that we had a good piece of thought leadership for that market. So we published with Wiley in that market. After, when I was on my sabbatical from HubSpot, I wrote this book called Take Your Company Global. This was endorsed by Brian Halligan, our longtime CEO and chair of the board of HubSpot today, the CEO of Calendly, my friend from Microsoft, and a couple of Harvard Business School professors that did me the favor of endorsing this book, including Francis Fry, who you probably have heard of. This book is pretty recent. I actually didn't think I was going to write another book so soon. But this is a guide basically on how to take your company global. And it's mostly for tech entrepreneurs and tech businesses. It's like a blueprint for taking digital businesses global.
Okay.
And then I did this one for Zappi. This is a book that I did not write. My customers, the chief insights officer of PepsiCo and our founder and some others collaborated on launching this. But we wrote this book and published it just a couple years ago. But it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And it's really actually been a great vehicle for people to get to know Zappi. And then my last book with Katherine. So it's been a lot of books over the years. Yeah, I have to say what's great about them is they're unique in this digital reality, online AI, everything is so digital that sometimes having a physical product of high value like this really does allow you to break through the noise. So I still am a believer in printed books.
So am I. I love bookstores and I hope they never go away.
Me too.
Okay. As someone who has toyed with and being a writer myself, I'd love to write a book. I mean, I have so many ideas and I know other leaders feel the same. Is there a misconception you think people have about writing their first book? The apprehension?
Yes, I think there are a few different buckets of reasons why people don't write a book. One, the writing process itself. Not everybody loves to write. I love to write. So for me, that's not an issue. The second bucket is fear of like putting my ideas out there. Like, oh, what if people don't like my ideas? What if they don't think they're actually useful or new or novel? That's the second bucket. If you can get past that one, the third one is I don't want to talk about myself. I don't want to market my book. I'm fine to write it and get it produced, but I don't want to have to sell it and promote it and pitch it and do all that work. So I think everybody has a blocker when it comes to writing a book. I believe everybody has a book in them. Stories to tell. It's part of human nature. We all have stories. But is it something that you want to commit to with such a huge amount of your time in your life? Because that's what people don't often see. They think it's all about the writing. They're like, oh, maybe I can get a ghostwriter to solve that. Or maybe, I'll put in the time, but I don't enjoy the process. It's actually, that's not the majority of the work. I think that's 20% of the work. 80% of the work is promoting the book. It's just like building a product. If you have to market the product, right? It doesn't matter if you have the best product in the world. Nobody knows about it. So people have this idea, Steve, that like if you get a major publisher, they'll do all the work for you in promoting it. They don't. They rely on the authors. Even Penguin, my book Found in Translation, was published with a major publisher, Penguin Random House. This was an imprint called Perigee Books. I had support. They had a PR team. They had a marketing budget. They paid me in advance. I separately hired my own PR firm. I did my own book tour, a national book tour with like 20 some stops on it. I paid for every penny of that myself. Why? I will never recover the dollars I put in book royalties. But you know what I got out of it? Credibility,
Yep.
opportunities to meet people in person, to be in the media as an expert with a published book behind me. That's what the book got me. And I will say, in writing it, I met all kinds of cool people. I met the person who invented Google Translate at Google. I met lots of executives from all different corners of the world. And it's easy to get those relationships when you're like, hey, I'm writing a book. Can I feature you? A lot of people will say yes to that. It's actually a great icebreaker,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it gets you in the door. So that was, quite early in my career that I wrote this. But that got me into circles that I couldn't have otherwise gotten into. So, writing and interviewing people is an art, as you know, because you do it so well. But it also gives you those relationships, and it gives you that network. So
Exactly.
that was why I did it in a lot of ways.
I completely understand. I completely relate. And I know, like I said, a lot of my listeners and just people I talk to, I know they have. By the way, I believe you're right. Every single person has a story to tell. But I think it's even more prevalent in the C-suite and CMOs and just the world they live in and the stories they could tell. But they have they put their own roadblocks up. And I think hearing you say that, I think is going to help a lot. It's going to help me. I can tell you right now. So thank you for that. Okay, you've listened to my show. You know I end the random 5, right? These 5 random questions, and I don't plan these. Although in your case, I did plan one, and you'll see why. But here's the first one: you're building the ultimate dinner party. You can have 3 guests, alive or not. Who's sitting at your table with you?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. 3 people. Okay, so Carl Sandburg
Okay.
is my number 1.
Okay.
Carl Sandburg, famous poet, songwriter, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, historian. Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, it's 2.
And I think this ancestor of mine who challenged Abraham Lincoln to a duel, his name was James Shields. I'd like to get them at the table together to watch what they would say, because they became friends later.
Wait a minute. Ancestor?
Yes, an ancestor of mine. Yeah.
Wow. That's not a minor thing to drop on us here.
There's a lot of us have interesting connections. I'm very into genealogy and ancestry. So I think the 3 of them would be cool, because one of them challenged the other to a duel. They became friends, but they didn't intersect that often once Lincoln became president. And Carl Sandburg wrote the 6-volume biography of Lincoln that won the Pulitzer Prize. It'd be so cool to get them all
Wow.
together at the table. I would just basically observe the conversation and
Right?
not participate.
Yeah, like I would serve the meal for that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would just be the waitress.
That's a great group. Okay, next one. What's something you love that most people would never guess about you?
James Brown.
Okay.
Well, I love funk music. I love
I do know that.
Motown. I love
Okay.
that style of music, and people don't usually guess that I would like that type of music, but it's actually
Okay. We're going to get to music in a second.
okay.
Are you a morning person or a late night?
Late night.
Okay. Just you're more productive kind
I
of
am a
thing?
night owl.
You're a
I
night
can't
owl.
think
Dang it.
can't think before noon, really. I mean, I don't know why I've always worked with international. I mean, it's sad because EMEA I'm on the East Coast of the United States, but I work a lot always have worked a lot with Europe.
Yeah.
But they get the worst of me because early morning meetings are not when I'm at my best. I flourish at night. I wake up at night. I'm really alive at night. That's when my best thinking is happening.
Okay. Next one. What's something you're still chasing even after everything you've accomplished?
Health. I wish that were less elusive than it is, but I've had plenty of health challenges over my lifetime, and I'm still working on it and looking for solutions. And I think it's even harder as you get older, but hey, that's what I'm still chasing.
Gotcha. All right. Last question. We got to go here. I am really going to put you on the spot. Can you pick a favorite Motown song? Or
Ooh.
3 or 50 or
Oh, I was thinking about Stevie Wonder this morning, and I was thinking, if somebody asked me what my favorite Stevie Wonder song is, what would I
Okay.
pick? And I think I would pick Overjoyed.
Hmm.
I cannot get tired of that song.
Okay.
I could listen to it every day and not get sick of it. Although I like the ones that are more upbeat,
Yeah.
and make you want to dance. But
Yeah.
that song, if I had to pick one, I think that's what I would pick.
I knew I was going to put you on the spot, but you answered it perfectly because it's hard.
It is.
It's hard to pick one.
It is.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, Nataly Kelly, I am just so grateful you're in my life. You're an absolute treasure. You're a mentor. You're an inspiration to me. And I thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Was very happy to be here, and it was lovely to meet you recently at the Super Bowl in person.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends, and if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.